My aggressive and manipulative boyfriend drained my bank account, thinking he was untouchable. So I made him regret it and sent his academic career into a nosedive. I set my cup of coffee down on the kitchen counter, my hand tightening around my phone as my mom's familiar voice came through the line. "Laura, sweetie, have you been using your debit card for food orders?" she asked. I frowned instantly, my mind raced. "No, why? I just got an alert. 6 separate transactions on a food delivery app totaling over $300. My stomach dropped. That amount couldn't be right. I rarely used my debit card on campus since my parents covered my dining plan, and even if I did order takeout, I'd never order that much. "I'll look into it, Mom," I managed, trying to steady my voice though my heart was pounding. I sat down and opened my banking app. There they were. 6 separate charges over the past 2 weeks, all for various food deliveries, burgers, sushi, pizza, orders I never placed. A chill ran down my spine as I realized someone had used my card. The only person with access was my boyfriend, Jake. It sounded absurd, but I couldn't ignore the possibility. Jake and I had been together for a year. He was charming, intense, and sometimes a little aggressive when things didn't go his way, yet I'd never thought he'd do something like this. Determined not to jump to conclusions, I headed across campus to his dorm. When I knocked on his door, he greeted me with a smirk and those familiar blue eyes that now scanned my face with a mix of amusement and uncertainty. I took a deep breath. "Jake, have you used my debit card?" I asked. His expression darkened immediately. "Are you seriously accusing me of stealing from you?" he snapped. "Someone used your card for food orders, and you're the only one who had it." "Wow, Laura, that's how much you trust me," he retorted with a hint of sarcasm. "Maybe you should cancel your card before some random hacker empties your account." I hesitated. Perhaps I was overreacting, or maybe it was just a scam, but the way he reacted made my stomach twist. "Yeah," I said slowly, "I'll call the bank." That night I canceled my card, yet an unsettling feeling lingered. Something still didn't add up. Later, unable to shake the worry, I reached out to the food delivery service's customer support and asked for receipts of the orders. After hours of waiting, their response left me breathless. The receipts clearly displayed the name Jake. Though they tried to obscure it with scribbles, his name still peeked through on the final order, which had been placed just 2 hours before my confrontation with him. My blood went cold. He had, in fact, used my card to pay for the food he just consumed, and now he was lying to my face. I stared at my phone, anger and humiliation mixing as my chest tightened. The next morning I marched straight to Jake's dorm, my hands trembling as I knocked. When he opened the door I stated firmly, "I have the receipts, Jake." He blinked in confusion. "What receipts?" "The ones from the food orders," he asked slowly. When he saw my phone screen, his face contorted into something ugly. "Are you serious right now? You went snooping around, you clearly don't trust me at all. You stole from me, Jake, and you lied to my face." His hand clenched into a tight fist, a silent, menacing warning. "You're making a mountain out of a molehill," he hissed. "It was just some food. You weren't even using the money." I swallowed hard, refusing to let him intimidate me. "We're done, Jake," I declared calmly. He laughed, a sound void of humor. "Oh, we're done? And who do you think you are, Laura? You're nothing without me. You think you can just walk away?" I held my ground and walked out, my heart racing with fury, though I should have been scared. That night I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes I saw Jake's face, his anger, his condescending tone, and that veiled threat in his clenched fist. I had ended things with him, but deep down I sensed he wasn't ready to let go. I was right. The following morning my phone lit up with a string of missed calls and texts from him. "Jake, 1:14 a.m. You're seriously overreacting about some food, you're pathetic." "Jake, 1:37 a.m. I should have known you'd turn into a psycho." "Jake, 2:05 a.m. No one's going to believe you, you have no proof." "Jake, 2:30 a.m. You better not tell anyone." And then at 4:12 a.m. he sent, "You're going to regret this." It was then I realized the nightmare was far from over. By lunchtime, it was clear Jake had set his plan in motion. Whispers followed me in the dorm, and acquaintances I once trusted now gave me strange looks. My roommate Sarah finally pulled me aside. "Laura, you need to see this," she said, sliding her phone over. On Jake's Snapchat story was a caption, "Crazy ex-girlfriend trying to ruin my life," accompanied by a blurry screenshot of a fake text conversation in which I appeared to be begging him to take me back. "Are you serious?" I muttered, my face burning. Sarah continued grimly, "And that's not even the worst part. Jake's been telling everyone that you stole money from him, which is why people are whispering and staring." He was twisting the narrative so convincingly that some even believed his version of events. I needed air to think, to decide what to do next. Ignore the rumors, fight back, or set the record straight. As I headed back to my dorm, my phone buzzed with a message from Mark, one of Jake's old friends. "Laura, heads up. Jake is saying some serious things about you. I wouldn't trust him to back off." My pulse raced. "What do you mean, Mark? What has he done now?" The message continued. "He's angry you called out his lies about our breakup. Be careful." A sinking feeling settled in my stomach as I read his words. That very night, I locked my dorm room door and double-checked the lock, trying to shake off the growing dread. At 3:47 a.m., I was jolted awake by the sound of a door handle turning. My heart skipped a beat, and then I heard a soft knock. "Laura, open the door, it's Jake," a voice called. I froze, my hands trembling. "Laura, I know you're in there," he said, his tone eerily calm as the handle rattled. Panic surged. Was he about to force his way in? I quickly texted Sarah, who was staying with her boyfriend that night. "Jake's outside my door and he won't leave. What do I do?" After a brief pause, Sarah replied, "Call security now." Without hesitation, I dialed campus security. "Campus safety, what's your emergency?" the operator asked. "My ex is outside my door and refuses to leave," I managed. They quickly asked for my location, and within minutes officers arrived. I clutched my phone as my heart pounded for what felt like an eternity. Finally, amidst footsteps and a louder knock, an officer's voice commanded, "Sir, step away from the door." Soon after, the sounds of retreat filled the corridor, and another officer gently said, "Miss, you can open the door now." When I did, Jake was gone. The next morning, I reported everything to the resident director. Jake was immediately banned from my dorm building and received a formal warning from campus security. I hoped that would be the end of it, but fate had more in store. That same day, I received a text from my bank. "Unusual login attempt detected on your account." My stomach sank as I reopened my banking app only to see that my savings had been nearly drained. My account balance was now a meager $14.82. I stared in disbelief. Could this be a glitch? No, the record of unauthorized transfers was unmistakable. Shaken, I called my bank to report the fraudulent transactions. The customer service rep guided me through verifying my identity and listing the suspicious charges. It turned out that all the transactions had been made through a digital payment app linked to my account, meaning there was a record. The rep confirmed that the money had been transferred to another user. Deep down, I already knew whose name would appear, but I needed more evidence. With a mix of determination and apprehension, I decided to do something Jake would never expect. I called his bank. "Hi, my name is Laura," I said, "and I believe someone has been making unauthorized transfers from my account to one of your users. I need to confirm some details for a fraud claim." After some persuasive conversation, I obtained the recipient account details. Jake's full name was there in black and white. He had been careless, and now I had undeniable proof. Armed with this evidence, I went to campus security and showed them everything. The bank records, the fraudulent transfers, and the fact that Jake had already been formally warned to stay away. They took the matter very seriously. By the end of our meeting, Jake was officially banned from not only my dorm building but from all student housing. The warning was clear. If he ever set foot near me again, he would be reported to the police. Although that was satisfying, I wasn't done yet. I needed a bigger statement. Jake wasn't just a reckless dropout. He had one thing in his life that truly mattered: his academic standing. Enrolled in a competitive honors program, his reputation required an impeccable record. Stealing money and breaking university rules were serious offenses. So, I filed an official misconduct report with the university. I attached every piece of evidence: the fraudulent transactions, the bank proof, the security complaint from my dorm, and even screenshots of the fake messages he'd spread. I wasn't sure how severely the university would act, but I had a strong feeling they wouldn't take it lightly. 2 days later, the consequences began to unfold. Jake's name was dragged through the mud. His professors were notified of the misconduct case, his scholarship was put under review, and the worst part was that he had no idea I was behind it all, until I saw him lose it on campus. I was walking to class when I heard shouting, "What do you mean I'm on probation?" Jake was outside the academic office, red-faced and flailing his arms as if in a tantrum. "She's lying, she's crazy, I didn't steal anything," he yelled. The administrator, calm as ever, replied, "We have documented evidence, Mr. Carter. This is a serious offense." I almost laughed as I watched Jake unravel, but I wasn't satisfied with just that. I wanted him to truly feel the consequences. Taking one final step, I forwarded the fraud report to his parents, the very people paying his tuition. I composed a polite, professional email explaining that their son had stolen from me, that I had filed official fraud claims, and that the university was already investigating him. I attached every piece of evidence and hit send. 2 days later, Sarah messaged me excitedly, "OMG, you need to see this." A screenshot showed that Jake's academic profile had been suspended. Sarah added, "Apparently his parents flipped out and pulled his tuition. He's done." Jake, the man who thought he could get away with everything, had lost his honors program, his scholarship, his academic standing, and his money. And I had the last laugh. News of Jake's downfall spread quickly. In the dining hall, whispers turned into open discussion, and someone even anonymously posted on the campus forum about an honor student caught in a fraud scandal, suspended for misconduct. I watched it all from a distance, sipping my coffee, while my phone buzzed with messages. Some came from people who had doubted me before. "Emily, hey, I heard about Jake. I'm really sorry I didn't believe you." And Dylan M, "Guess you weren't the crazy ex after all." Others were from Jake's friends. "Mark, dude, I heard his parents cut him off, he's losing his apartment." And Rachel, "He's blaming you for everything. Be careful." That last message sent a shiver down my spine. If there was one thing I knew about Jake, it was that he never handled defeat well. That night, a blocked number called. I let it ring and then a text arrived. "You think this is funny? You ruined my life. You're going to pay for this." I exhaled slowly, my fingers clenching around my phone. Jake was unraveling, and that made him dangerous. I wasn't entirely afraid, but I wasn't willing to take any risks either. I did what I should have done long ago. I contacted the police. Campus security had already flagged Jake's name due to his previous warnings, so when I showed them the new threats, they took it very seriously. "He's been harassing you for weeks," an officer said, frowning as he reviewed the messages. "Now he's escalating with threats." I nodded in agreement. "We can help you file for a restraining order," the officer continued. "This will legally prevent him from contacting you, and if he does, we can arrest him." I signed the paperwork that day. From that moment on, Jake wasn't just banned from campus, he was forbidden from coming anywhere near me. If he tried, he wouldn't just face suspension. He'd be arrested. I didn't hear from him for 2 days. Then late one night, my phone rang with an unknown caller. I hesitated before answering. "You won't get away with this," his voice said, low and shaking with anger. "You think you've won?" I took a deep breath. "I don't think so," I replied. There was a moment of silence before his voice cracked. "You took everything from me, Laura." For the first time, his tone was small, defeated. And that realization hit me hard. "No, Jake," I whispered. "You did that to yourself." I hung up and never heard from him again. For the first time in weeks, I woke up without reaching for my phone, free of that constant dread. Jake was gone, expelled, banned from campus, and blocked from contacting me. Yet, his final words still echoed. "You took everything from me, Laura." In truth, he had only destroyed himself. Over the following week, life slowly returned to normal. The whispers in the hallways died down, and even the rumors Jake had spread began to fade. One afternoon, Sarah and I sat in the campus cafe, sipping our coffees as she scrolled through her phone. "Looks like Jake deleted all his social media. No more vague rants about you," she remarked. I sighed in relief. "So now that your crazy ex is officially out of your life, what's next?" she asked. I paused, realizing that for so long I had been stuck in defense mode, reacting to his attacks, constantly protecting myself, fighting back. "I think I just want to move on," I admitted genuinely this time. Revenge wasn't about ruining Jake's life. It was about reclaiming my own. And at long last I had my freedom. I didn't hear about Jake for a few months until one afternoon Mark texted me again. "You are not going to believe this," he wrote. Jake tried to enroll at another university, but they found out about his expulsion and rejected him. I raised an eyebrow and typed back, "What now?" Mark replied, "Once you get kicked out for fraud, it's nearly impossible to start fresh." I felt no guilt or pity, only a deep sense of justice. Jake had spent his life believing he could do whatever he wanted, take whatever he desired, and get away with it. Now he was paying the price and I had nothing to do with his downfall, it was all his own doing. A year later, as I sat in the same cafe with Sarah, she asked, "Ever wonder what happened to Jake?" I shrugged. "Not really," I said. The truth was Jake no longer mattered. I had graduated on time, secured a great internship, and started building the future I wanted. I didn't even know where he was and I didn't care. Looking back, I realized I didn't win by ruining his life. I won by refusing to let him ruin mine. I didn't allow him to intimidate me or steal from me, and then spin his lies into my reality. I fought back, and in the end that was all that truly mattered. Months passed since that fateful confrontation, and life slowly found its rhythm again. I had immersed myself in rebuilding not only my schedule but also my sense of self. The relentless echoes of those painful nights began to fade, replaced by new routines and small victories that reminded me I was stronger than any threat or betrayal. I found solace in early morning jogs along the campus paths, quiet moments at the library, and long talks with Sarah over steaming cups of coffee. In those gentle moments, I rediscovered a passion for art and writing, a way to channel my emotions into something constructive rather than destructive. At first, the campus was still abuzz with whispers and sideways glances, remnants of Jake's twisted narrative. But as the days turned into weeks, even those murmurs lost their bite. I began attending a creative writing workshop led by a compassionate professor who encouraged us to explore our personal stories as a path to healing. I poured every ounce of the turbulent memories onto paper, each line a testament to the pain, the anger, and eventually, the hard-won peace that emerged from the chaos. Sharing my writing in that supportive environment helped me realize that my story was not defined by Jake's betrayal, but by my resilience and capacity to transform suffering into art. One crisp autumn afternoon, as leaves painted the campus in fiery hues, I received an unexpected invitation to speak at a student-led panel about personal empowerment and overcoming adversity. Nervously, I accepted. Standing on that small stage before an audience of peers, I recounted my journey, the heartbreak, the nights of terror, the painstaking battles with bureaucracy and intimidation, and finally the moment when I reclaimed my life. I spoke about the power of self-advocacy, the importance of trusting one's instincts, and the value of seeking support when the world feels overwhelming. In that moment, I realized that my voice, once muted by fear, had become a beacon for others who might be facing similar struggles. Over time, the campus atmosphere changed. The rumors and Jake's toxic influence dissipated like morning mist. A few of Jake's former friends, now disillusioned by his manipulations, approached me with apologies and words of support. It became clear that his downfall had not only liberated me, but had also awakened others to the importance of integrity and compassion. My professors and peers began to see me in a new light, as someone who had faced down a dangerous situation and emerged wiser, stronger, and unafraid to confront injustice. I continued to nurture my relationships, both old and new. Sarah remained my steadfast ally, and together we organized campus discussions and workshops focusing on digital safety and healthy relationships. These sessions were not just about protecting oneself from potential threats. They were about empowerment, learning to stand up for oneself and finding strength in community. The more we shared our experiences, the more we realized that adversity often carried hidden lessons, and that from the depths of despair, hope could indeed be reborn. One day, while walking home from a campus seminar, I passed by the old building where it all had happened. The memory was still vivid, a mix of anger, fear, and eventual liberation. I paused at the entrance and took a deep breath. In that silent moment, I silently thanked the trials I had endured. They had forced me to confront my vulnerabilities and to harness my inner courage. I realized that true victory wasn't about inflicting pain on someone else. It was about reclaiming my own narrative and embracing the freedom that comes from self-respect and perseverance. I began to rebuild more than just my daily routine. I rebuilt my dreams. I enrolled in courses that challenged me intellectually and emotionally, joined a campus volunteer group, and even started mentoring younger students who had been through tough times. My experience had taught me that resilience is not a solitary journey, but one that is enriched by the support and trust of others. With every conversation, every shared story, I felt more connected to a network of people who believed in fairness, compassion, and second chances. In time, the legal and administrative aftermath of Jake's actions faded into a distant chapter. The university's disciplinary actions, the warnings from campus security, and even the police intervention had all contributed to an important message. There are consequences for those who try to manipulate and harm others. I learned that standing up for oneself sometimes meant facing uncomfortable truths and enduring challenges, but that these hardships paved the way for genuine growth. Now, as I sit in a quiet cafe one afternoon, sipping my coffee and watching the world go by, I feel an overwhelming sense of peace. The scars remain, a permanent reminder of the past, yet they have transformed into symbols of survival. I have learned that I am the author of my own story, a story that now speaks of renewal, empowerment, and hope. I no longer live in the shadow of betrayal or fear. Instead, I walk forward with confidence, knowing that my future is not dictated by the actions of a broken man, but by my own unyielding determination to live a life of honesty and strength. In the end, the victory was not in destroying Jake's life, but in choosing to build my own. I reclaimed my identity from the ashes of despair, and in doing so, I discovered that the power to define my destiny had always been within me. The final chapter of that dark episode closed quietly, with me stepping forward into a bright and promising future, free at last, not because I had exacted revenge, but because I had found the courage to let go and embrace life on my own terms.